Good morning, y'all. I gotta say, I was feeling a little bit flat this morning. However, listening to that intro music has pumped me up a little bit. I won't lie. It is a good tune. What's up, everybody? How you doing? My name's Louis Vuitton, and thank you for stopping by. So, let me open the stream by, of course, acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land from which I'm coming to you, live from. The Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Fuck. And welcome any Indigenous people joining us today. Always was, always will be. It's not Monster. Monster's disgusting. So what's up? How you doing? Like I said, my name's Louis Vuitton. I am a Australian left-wing progressive streamer. I like to talk about stuff like workers' rights, minority rights, in particular trans and indigenous rights. I like to talk about masculinity as well. I think there's a lot to say about the topic of masculinity in the modern age, because it seems like men aren't doing too well. There's some things that are good about masculinity, and some things that aren't. So yeah, I like to talk about maybe taking the best parts of masculinity and leaving behind the worst. And maybe seeing if we can't calm men down just a little bit. But anyway, we won't talk about that today. We have some other stuff to talk about. I have to talk about how the planet's kind of on fire in some parts, flooding in some others. I'm sure it's freezing somewhere where it's not supposed to be right now as well. So yeah. I talked about climate change. When was it? Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday because I was talking about the weather. Speaking of which, let's check the weather over on the west coast. Anyway, I was talking about how the end of the world is seen as this like, okay, it's not so bad. It's 33 degrees right now in Oregon. Okay, that's hot, but that's not like, not Bundoora. That's not like 47 degrees hot. Let's take a look in Canada. Excuse me. And see, what's the location? Lytton. Let's have a look in Lytton, see what the temperature is there. That's over on the west coast. Anyway, I was talking about how the end of the world is seen as this, 46 degrees right now. Fuck! At 2:50 in the afternoon. Whew, that is horrible. I don't think I've ever actually experienced that. Even though I live in Australia, I've experienced 43 and 44. I don't know if I've experienced as high as 45. Maybe. That is insanity, though. That is fucked up. We're going to take a look at some temperatures and maps and such in a minute. But for now, that is crazy. 46, that's fucked. Like, humans aren't meant to live like that. Not at all. It looks like tomorrow, it's saying, is going to be 42 in Lytton. And then starting to drop down, 38 Thursday. Oregon looks like it's starting to get cooler. 33 today, 31 tomorrow, 29 the next day. Oh, I'm so glad I live in Australia, so, it gets hot. But I'm so glad that I'm not there right now. Weirdly enough, actually, the last summer we had was very cold. It was like we had maybe like a week total spread out over the summer of hot days. But that, like, yeah. Obviously, the summer beforehand, 2019 going into 2020, we had a pretty intense summer. A quarter of the country was on fire. But this last summer, total opposite. It wasn't like, isn't like opposite, isn't like super wet, but it was just cold. The entire summer was very mild. Like I said, there was only like a handful of days that got up to high 30s. I don't know if we were at least in Victoria, maybe like 1 or 2 days that were 40, maybe if they even got up that high, really. So yeah, I really feel for the people over in the Pacific Northwest. I've been following it on Twitter, obviously, because everyone's been talking about it. So, yeah, everyone just stay safe, stay cool. Apparently, air conditioning isn't just like a normal thing, isn't just like standard across the board in America and Canada, like it is in Australia. Like in Australia, I was saying, I think it was yesterday, like every house that's under 30 years old. No, I was saying the other day, every house that's like under 30 years old, and even like older than that, will have an AC. But in the Pacific Northwest in Canada, it's just not. It's like the same thing about like Texas. You know, they didn't need. They're like, oh, we don't need to insulate our houses because it never gets cold here. Well, yeah. Let's take a look at some graphics. Let me see. Let me bring it up. I'm just making sure that the stream on my phone. Oh, really quickly before I jump in. So, as I've said, my name is Louis Vuitton. You can follow me over on YouTube. I do prepared content over there. Jump down to the description and join the Discord in the link down below. And hey, as you can see, we have our daily dono goal to buy me a pizza because, hey, I love pizza, but I am a poor student. And I do love pizza. So if you've got a couple of bucks lying around. Anyway, let us have a look. Uh-oh. Now this was posted yesterday, I believe. Yes, yesterday. From Scott Duncan. Let's see. I can't believe I'm writing this. Canada has obliterated its national all-time heat record for the second day in a row. Before yesterday, greater than 45 degrees had never been recorded. As far as climatology is concerned, this is deeply shocking. No shit. New all-time Canadian heat record. Previous record was 46.6 degrees Celsius, which was literally the day before, as seen here. And that's, yes, 116 degrees. And now, Fahrenheit. And now, 47.9 degrees Celsius. That is insanity. I had a look into Australia's hottest temperatures last night. The hottest temperature ever, I think, was 1930 in South Australia, and that was 50 degrees Celsius. So it's like 125 Fahrenheit or something crazy. But we did have a 47-degree day last year in New South Wales, I believe, which is insane. It doesn't regularly get that hot, like in Australia. It's like there'll be like a 43, 44 degree day, maybe like one in a year, maybe a couple, but never anything like this. This is crazy. So as you can see from the map, it's not just Canada. All along the west coast, people are sweltering, melting, dying. I'm really scared to start to see some info about the death toll that's going to come in about this heat wave. Because, like I said, a lot of people don't have air conditioning, both in Canada and America in this area. And, yeah, if you can't cool down, then I really worry for the people in the area. Some real end of the world shit. And on the subject of being on the end of the world, like I said, the end of the world is kind of imagined as this one, like, day after tomorrow kind of event, you know, where everything collapses at once. The end of the world is not going to be a sudden occurrence. It's not going to be suddenly the earth splits and fire falls from the sky and the seas surge and sweep over the land, you know, and the Statue of Liberty falls over. You know, it's not going to be just this one day, this one event where everything goes to shit. It's going to be a gradual process that increasingly worsens. So, while this is the hottest... Oh, excuse me. While this is the hottest... oh goodness, it's the... Maybe I shouldn't drink an energy drink in the morning before streaming. I should stick to coffee. While this is the hottest day on record, it's going to be, in retrospect, the coolest summer of the rest of your life. Because stuff like this, extreme weather events, are only going to get worse and get more common. I mean, look at I talked a little bit about it yesterday. Look at the Gulf being pummeled by hurricanes when they normally used to get like maybe one, sometimes two a year. Now, down in like Louisiana, Florida area, they're getting like 6, 7, 8 hurricanes a year. You know, these supposedly like once in a century weather events are now happening every year, a couple of years. Like, this is the thing. This is what I'm talking about. This is a gradual worsening of events. It's not going to be one event. It's going to be that things get worse over a period of time. And they've been getting worse for decades. Like, how many decades now? Like, over half a century. We've been hearing from climate scientists about how, hey, this is going to get worse. I saw on, I don't know. Forget that. The thing about climate change, the thing about at this point now, there's no stopping climate change. Like, this idea of, you know, oh, we have like, 10 years before we're past the point of no return. Well, that, like, we were past the point of no return, like, the 10 years until we're past the point of no return, like, 20 years ago, 30 even. Climate change, well, I was about to say it's going to hit. It's already hitting. Like, this is it. This is climate change. It's already hitting. So, the only thing we can do now... Excuse me. The only thing we can do now is brace for the impact. The only thing we can do now is rapidly transition to clean energy as fast as we can. I know that people say, like, oh, like, nuclear energy takes too long to set up. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long it takes to set up, man. Like, even if it takes 15 years to go nuclear, then we still need to do it, because whatever small change we can make. Transition to green and nuclear. Stop pumping fossil fuels into the air. Because here's the thing. We're going to be hit by the impact. We are being hit by the impact. It's going to get worse. The only way we can mitigate it is by decreasing our output, by decreasing our contribution to climate change, so that as it gets worse, it doesn't get as worse as it would. Because we are definitely going to see more deaths from climate change. Like, what if this weather event happened somewhere in the third world, somewhere that doesn't have the infrastructure to properly address the people that live in the area that have been hit by a heat wave that's 48 degrees? I talked about it yesterday. Like, remember how Thailand and Haiti were, how their countries were after the tsunami and the earthquake, respectively. Like, how long it took those countries to get back on their feet. When we have events like this happening around the world, and we have people dying en masse in their hundreds of thousands, if not no, I'm underselling it. Tens of millions. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that those people will die in the meantime while we transition to a clean energy, to clean energy production. Because if we don't have, I mean, like, unless we actually stop and stop using fossil fuels and move to clean energy, then it's not going to get better. Nothing's going to get better unless we stop. So in the meantime, we'll have to weather the storm of climate change until us ceasing our output of fossil fuels actually starts to change and improve things. In the meantime, though, hundreds of millions of people will die. Maybe billions. Because this is just talking about the climate effects. Like, the equator is going to get hotter. People in the equator countries are going to be moving north and south. People in Southeast Asia are going to be moving north to China. People in South America and Central America are going to be moving north to North America and Canada. I'm going to see a mass wave of immigration. People in Africa are going to be moving north into Europe. So yeah, think of what 5 million immigrants did to Europe. 5 million sent them hurtling towards fascism. Just think of when it's 50 million. 500 million. So yeah. And then, on this note, this might be a good time to segue into why it is immoral to bring children into this world. This is where my stance on having children comes from. Like, I don't take some, like, philosophical, like, oh, it is immoral to bring children into this world. You know, children did not consent to being born. Children can't consent. So, yeah, it's not some, like, lofty philosophical ideal. It's very... My belief is a very practical one. We live in this world where we do not take climate change seriously. We have, for decades, received information about how it's worsening and about how it's already here, and we have failed to act on that information. Therefore, if this is our future, if we're going to be seeing this a whole lot more, it's immoral to bring a child into that world that they have no control over. Because I'm going to live to see the world get a whole lot worse. So let's say a child lives, like, 30 years after I live. In that time, they're going to see it get a whole lot worse than what I see. I'm inflicting that upon them. I'd be inflicting this hell world on them. I would be, unless they take their own life, I would be basically putting them in this situation where they're forced to live in this kind of world, where they're forced that this is their reality. This is something they have to deal with. It's not as simple as going to work, going to school, raising a family. The overhanging threat, the threat of climate change hangs over their entire life. That's something that they have to deal with. Now, I'm not trying to make this same argument in terms of, like, I don't know, like, poor people shouldn't have children because then they'll be born into poverty. That's very different. We're talking about the literal end of the world. Unless we take meaningful steps to address climate change, unless we take steps to actually combat the damage that we have wrought upon this world, unless we're actually going to start treating it like the calamity that it is, then you should not be having children. I don't want to bring a child into this world where this is what they're going to inherit. They're going to inherit, like, you always say that, you know, like the next generation inherits the old one's problems, or the old one's mistakes. I mean, like, I inherited my parents' mistakes where their generation failed to act on climate change. My generation, I get. I know, it depends if you consider me like a millennial or a zoomer. The millennials have failed to act on climate change. It will depend on how the zoomers feel. But still, we have to, because we can't have any young people in politics, we have to wait 10, 20 years before any zoomers can get into politics. So in that 10, 20 years' time, things are going to get a whole lot worse. Anyway, getting sidetracked. The whole point is that I believe that unless I see in my lifetime our world governments, taking steps to legitimately weather the storm of climate change, to hunker down, and to make this shift towards nuclear and green energy, then no one should bring children to this world. Unless we're actually going to treat it like the threat that it is, then we should just let our species die. Because it's not worth propagating ourselves in some post-apocalyptic world. If we're going to fail ourselves and our children that badly, then we should just not continue as a species. We should not inflict that world upon any future generations. Now this is very much like my belief. I would never lecture someone on having children. I'd never be like, if a friend told me that they were expecting, I wouldn't be like, oh no, you shouldn't do that. I'd be very congratulatory, in fact. I'm happy to argue this topic anytime. Kids are bioweapons and I support the Geneva Convention. What's up, Anarcho Taco? We're talking about anti-natalism in a climate change world. I'm talking about how, me personally, I'm an anti-natalist because I don't want children to inherit this kind of world. I think that if our failure to address climate change is going to result in this kind of world for them to inherit, then we should not inflict that upon them. I believe that is immoral. Now, here's the thing. Me being an anti-natalist, that's contingent upon us addressing climate change. If we actually do take meaningful steps to address climate change, if we do hunker down, if we do shift towards nuclear and green energy, if we actually take some meaningful steps towards, not fixing the problem, but weathering the storm, so that in the long run, things will improve, then, yeah, my opinion on this subject will flip. Absolutely, go for it. Have all the kids you want. But as long as this is our future, then hell no. That's cruel. That is immoral. The natalist position is untenable. Nobody consented to be born into capitalism. Well, that's the thing. I said at the start, this stance of mine, it's not a philosophical one. It's very much a practical one. Practical in the sense that, this is the world this is the future we're looking at. If we're not going to fix it, then don't bother. That's cruel. I don't, my stance isn't based on anything like people not consenting, people... I'm not taking, the philosophical argument about, I didn't consent to being born into this kind of world. It's much more practical. This is a hellish future, and that is cruel to inflict the failings of this generation on the next. Because this isn't something as simple... This isn't your average calamity. This is a world-ending calamity. So yeah. Not pleasant. Pain, even. Alright. So yeah. I'm glad to see that at least the forecast is, for now, it's predicting cooler weather over on the Pacific Northwest. the west coast of Canada and America. So I hope that everybody over there will be feeling the change soon. And I hope that the death toll from this event is as little as possible. Because looking at that stat, 47.9 degrees Celsius, that's hellish. So yeah. Whew. What's the time? Oh, okay. I actually have a morning tea planned, so let's see. I had a little bit of a lie-in this morning, so I didn't start as early as I should have, and I do have something to go to this morning, so I might call it there. And there we go. That's my take on natalism and climate change. So, anyway, again, it's very much my position. I wouldn't preach it to anybody. As I said, if a friend told me that they were expecting, then I'd say congratulations. I wouldn't... Excuse me, I wouldn't say like, oh, you're really going to bring a child into this kind of world? No. And again, hey, I would love to have kids, so hello, governments of the world. If you're actually going to address this problem, then let me know. Not anytime soon, though. Like, Jesus Christ, no. I'm not even 30 years old. I don't want kids now. So anyway, thank you all very much for watching. My name is Louis Vuitton. You can follow me on Twitch. Jump over to YouTube and subscribe to me there. Follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. The link down below. Everybody, please stay safe, stay cool. Unless you're in Melbourne, where it's very cool right now. Other than that, ciao.